Alright, my wood floors have dried enough that I can go ahead and burn the holes, the peg holes into them now, rather than wait until tomorrow. So, strike while the iron's hot, or maybe more appropriately, strike while the wood burning tip is hot. This is my wood burner, Colwood, great brand, and here is the wand and the particular tip that I use, which you can't really tell all that well, but it's basically designed just to burn a hole or a circle into the wood. So I've had it heated up for a while, so it's ready to go. I'm just going to show you. I normally just do a test on this craft stick here. If I can film and do this at the same time. Don't try this at home. So you see? And now I've got to hold it straight up to burn a circle, otherwise it's going to do some kind of a funky pattern. Here we go. Oh. They're still not very good circles because I'm multitasking here. But you get the idea. It does truly burn the wood. Gives off kind of a nice scent, actually. So I am now going to remove this floor, which is the dining room. So you see all of these individual planks that I need to burn holes, 2 in each end of each one. So got a lot to do here. So I'm going to put the camera down long enough to burn the holes, and then I will resume and show you how it looks. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and try to film and burn. So you see it goes fairly quick. Does give off a little smoke. That's alright, it smells good. This is a superior way to do this rather than, say, take a black Sharpie and put a dot on the boards. Because again, it does actually burn a bit into the wood, and therefore you know it's never going to go away. The Sharpie point can fade over time, and even though Sharpie claims to be permanent, I've seen Sharpie ink fade. So the burn is the real thing, and it won't go anywhere. So you see how quickly it goes, and it's kind of fun. The tip is very hot, therefore the handle gets a little warm over time, so that's why there's cork, kind of an insulator. But you do have to stop every now and then and just take a break, because not that you necessarily will burn yourself, but it gets extremely hot after a while. So to give yourself a break and the instrument a break, I stop about every 15 minutes. But you see him moving right along here. 2 holes. Try to space them evenly. 2 holes per board, and you just keep going down the line. Okay, I have finished burning all the holes, peg holes in the dining room floor. Didn't take even 10 minutes, but the instrument did get hot, that's for sure, so I'm glad I got done when I did. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it up and just kind of go ahead and slide it into the room. Well, let's turn it around, that'd be good. Okay. There. Alright, so it fits back in, and again, when I glue it down, put a couple of bricks on top of it. When it dries, it'll be totally flat. There will be no warps or bulges anywhere. So that's one room down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more to burn. Okay, all the floors have their peg holes burned into them, and I've placed them all back into position. This took about an hour and 10 minutes to burn all the holes, mainly because I did take a break now and then, because I think, as I mentioned, this tip gets very hot, and since you're holding it down, the heat rises, so it brushes past your hand, so you really do have to stop now and then. I really admire wood carvers who can spend hours with those tools, burning details in their ducks and other things they create. They probably have calluses. Anyhow, it's all done, so the next step is to glue them down, one room at a time. So I will start doing that, and then I'll come back and give you an update. I've spread the glue down on the underside of the first piece, which is the dining room. This is the glue I use. Type Bond 3 Ultimate Wood Glue. I mean, it is the ultimate wood glue. It spreads nicely, it cures pretty quickly, and in fact, I'd probably say in another 10 minutes I'll be able to remove these bricks that are holding down the piece flat. It doesn't take long. And yes, I'm using bricks from my elementary school that they demolished earlier this year. Those are commemorative bricks I bought for $5 a piece. I bought several of them, never realizing that they'd actually come in handy as a tool in my model shop. But they are. I mean, they're holding down the floor just great. So in about another 10 minutes I will remove the bricks and we will examine how nicely this finished floor looks. Well, I have glued all of the floors down except for the bedroom up here, kind of the kids' bedroom, or it might be a play area. So here is the last piece. So I thought I would go ahead and film this. So I've got my Type Bond 3 Ultimate Glue, and I start working my way around the edges. After I pop the lid up, of course, that's always helpful. Alright, here we go. And since this is extra strength glue, you don't have to worry too much about how much you get and how close it gets to the edge, because it does spread nicely. If you get it too close to the edge, it's going to ooze out and going to be wasteful. And you kind of shake it as you go along. The older I get, the more shaky I get. And of course, trying to do this while holding a camera isn't exactly the easiest thing. So you'll go around the perimeter, and then you do a series of lines, kind of a checkerboard effect. Red sails in the sunset. That easy listening music. Alright. So here I've got my checkerboard. And sometimes in the center I put down a little extra glue, just for good measure, and glue is cheap. It's cheap insurance. Alright. Now, lift it. And we get it to lay, push it back. Alright, got some oozing. So I'll take a paper towel and wipe that up. Alright, now it's just kind of loosely in place. So this is where you press down. And then I get my ever ready, ever handy elementary school bricks. 1, 2. Obviously you want the edges to be down nice and tight. 1 more here. There we go. Alright. And then where there's still open spaces, I just kind of feel with my hand and make sure nothing's bubbled up. Rarely does that ever happen. Alright. So we will let that set for probably about 20 minutes. Then I'll be able to remove the bricks, and I should be able to say that all of the floors are finished. They're all glued down, and they're flat, and they look pretty. But there's still one additional step that needs to be done, and I'll show you that shortly. A few other things I thought I'd point out to you while the glue is drying is you'll notice that in some areas the wood flooring doesn't truly go to the edge of the wall, and that's okay. There's a reason why leaving that gap is actually beneficial, and I'll explain that in time. And if you look here, you'll see that there's a slight gap here, very slight gap, where these two rooms kind of have this passageway between them. So we have the dark frame up against a dark frame, but they don't quite match up, so you see a little bit of white in between. That's easily solved by getting more of the stain and a foam brush and tapping it into that open area. It'll cover it up nicely. And if you look over here, you'll see, well, here's a doorway where I've put nothing in between. There's a reason for that too. That doorway is history. I do not understand why this dollhouse kit has two doors going into the room this close together, or two openings anyway. To my way of thinking, it's just eating up valuable wall space where you could have a bookcase or a bed. It just doesn't seem to serve a real functional purpose, so I'm going to get rid of this opening. And that's because, and you ask, how am I going to do that? Am I going to fill in this opening? No. All of these walls that you see are going to be covered over with wall veneer board. And so when I do that, you know, the veneer will just fit right over the opening, and you know, you'll never know that there was an opening in the subwall behind it. So again, for the most part, it's pretty tight fitting to the walls, but where there are gaps is fine, because there's going to be base trim. In addition to the new exterior of these walls, the new outer face, there will also be base trim down at the bottom that will stick out. So there's no need to worry about making the floors truly go up and hug the very edges of the walls. The little gap will be covered by the wall board and the trim, the base trim. And those little dollhouse tricks that everybody uses, at least I do. I mentioned there's one more final step that I do with my hardwood floors, and that is I like to give them a clear gloss coat of polyurethane, Minwax fast drying polyurethane. It gives the floors a bit of a shine, like nice clean hardwood floors often have, and it also kind of helps all the planks stay together. Polyurethane is almost like glue. It'll help the planks stay next to one another over time. Sometimes planks can pop up on an end if they aren't sealed in some way. So using this polyurethane has the benefit, the dual benefit of an aesthetic improvement, giving it a glossy look, and it isn't too glossy. It isn't overpoweringly bright or glossy, but it just makes the floors look clean, and it helps just hold everything together. It acts like just a layer of, it's like it's been dipped in glue, a clear glue, further reducing any chance over time of planks coming up. So, and then you know, it's just a matter of using a craft sponge. This sponge brush came out of a value pack that had several different sizes. I probably wouldn't normally use one this tiny, and probably use one that's maybe twice that width. It just gets it done quicker, but I appear to be out of them, and I don't want to use one of the biggest sizes because that can get hard to reach in some of these nooks and crannies. So it'll take me just a little bit longer using this size foam brush, but it's no big deal. Obviously I'm a patient person, so I've already popped the lid off the polyurethane. It's already been stirred. If you've not worked with polyurethane before, It's fun to apply. It just goes on almost just like water. But it does have an odor. It's not an offensive odor. I kind of like it, actually. But you need to be in a well-vented room, and preferably not close to an ignition source like a furnace that's running. I'm only 10 feet away from my furnace, but it is not on. So I will spread this fairly quickly, put the fan on it. We'll leave the heat off overnight to reduce any risk of any kind of vapor that may explode. Don't want to burn my real house down. And then by tomorrow morning it should be pretty much fully cured. The odor will have died down, and we'll be back in business. So kind of one last quick look at how these floors look before I apply the polyurethane. You know, even though the stain that's on these boards gives it a very, very slight sheen, which for some that would be just fine. In fact, some of my dollhouses I stop and do not do this last step, but I feel the need to do it on this one because this dollhouse is so big, and I'm worried that when it gets moved from house to house, room to room over its lifetime, that these planks could shift or crack or come up. The polyurethane will help greatly reduce the risk of that. So it's literally just time to paint, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. You don't have to go in any particular direction, although I tend to go in the direction of the planks. And since I'm going to have new walls, it doesn't matter if I get the polyurethane up against the wall and if the wall absorbs some of it. I don't think this is filming very well, but you at least get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and finish. Well, right there you can see where that portion is done versus the portion on the left side that's not. So it does add to it. So I will finish all this up and come back and shoot some more video so you see what it looks like. Alright, I have applied the clear gloss polyurethane to all the floors. You can see they still look very wet. When this cures, it will tone down a bit, but it will give the floors a glossy look, which I think will look nice with this particular house. But all the floors are done. It'll take a whole probably 24 hours with the fan blowing on this thing to dry it out. So I don't anticipate getting much work done tomorrow on this, which is fine. I have other things I need to be doing. But my goal was for this Thanksgiving weekend to get the flooring completely done. And once the flooring is done, I like to think that the hardest part is behind me. You may not think so, but I know so. For me, the hardest part is done. And then we'll start focusing on the walls. I had to pull the dollhouse a little closer toward me to put on the polyurethane, so I thought maybe I'd slide back around to the front and see if I can give you another shot of what this thing looks like on the front, in case you don't remember, because it's been a year. But it's got this really cool gazebo on the front, which I like. And I had my friend Jim Talley cut me some window panes rather than just using sheet plastic that comes with the kit that has grid lines on it. This way we have actual windows. These are not glued in, obviously, but you can see, they've got profile and relief and cast shadows. So I think it's a huge improvement to the dollhouse. And I like the color scheme. I'm very pleased with how that turned out also. So that's the front so far. There's plenty more to be done, mostly on the interior, but there's still a lot of touch-up on this exterior that I'll do at the very end. But that's where we are this Thanksgiving weekend. So stay tuned. I will resume work on the interior as soon as I can and continue to shoot videos for you. Thanks.